Welcome to Labor Talks, a podcast by NJASAP and for NJASAP that shares important news and information that you consume on your schedule. Labor Talks will tackle vital topics like safety, contract administration, the labor management relationship, and how to navigate life as a NetJets pilot. And we will bring this information to you with the help of experienced union leaders, industry consultants, and subject matter experts. Whether you listen in your car, on the treadmill, or while working on tasks around your home, Labor Talks is a worthy investment of your time and attention. Join your fellow pilots and advocates as Labor Talks. Welcome to Labor Talks. I'm your host, Clare Carey, and with me today is Benefits Committee Chair Captain Jason Williams. Join us for a discussion on how to take advantage of and understand the breadth of your benefits in this multi-part series, Did You Know? Jason, good morning, and thanks for joining me today.
Good morning.
I take it it's your day off, so where are you joining us from?
It is. I'm in northern Kentucky.
Oh, lovely. Is it warming up down there, or are you still experiencing the cold winter?
It's actually gotten colder today.
Well, hopefully soon, right?
Yes, it was 80 degrees out 2 weeks ago, and today it's 40. So
go figure. All right, Jason. Well, let's dive into the wonderful world of benefits. So as we know, there are benefits that NetJets has to offer, benefits that NJASAP has to offer. Let's talk about the benefits that NetJets has to offer.
all right, NetJets has multiple different benefits available to the crew members, most of which are available at no premium. However, some do require premium. The no premium benefits include healthcare benefits, pharmacy benefits, dental benefits, vision benefits, flex spending account benefits, and also basic life insurance. The benefits that have a premium are the supplemental life insurance benefits. And let me just go back. Technically, the flex spending benefits, it's available to all crew members at no cost, but you do have to contribute to that. So it's not just free money.
Right. Well, now that you've said free money, I'm sure you've perked the ears of some of our listeners. So why don't you tell me about that flex spending?
So the way the flex spending works is it's a benefit you have to enroll in every year. Most of the benefits, they'll just roll over from year to year. Flex spending, you have to actively elect during open enrollment in the fall. You can contribute a little bit every paycheck. And the way that works is that contributes to your flex spending account with pre-tax dollars. So it's a little bit of a tax savings there. And then that money can be used on qualified medical expenses. All the rules on the flex spending are from the IRS. These aren't company rules. The company just abides by what the IRS tells them to do. The important thing to know about the flex spending account is that it's, per the IRS, it's quote unquote, use it or lose it every year. So any money that you contribute to that has to be spent during that calendar year. There's a small allowance you can roll over. It's typically around $500 a year. Anything over that amount at the end of the year, you just forfeit. So it's very important when you enroll in the flex spending account that you calculate how much money you actually are going to spend so you don't over contribute. Because if you over contribute and you lose a bunch of money due to the use it or lose it provision, you're pretty much negating any tax savings. So
good to know. All right. So if I've just started at NetJets, when am I expected to enroll in these benefits?
So when you first start at NetJets will have you enroll. All benefits are effective from day one of employment, right? So NetJets will have you enroll in the healthcare, the pharmacy, the dental, the vision, all those plans. But you and your eligible dependents will be covered from day one of employment. As far as the NJASAP benefits go, you have 60 days to enroll in those. Those are separate from Harvey Watt, and those you have to actively enroll in.
Great.
Those you have to actively enroll in.
All right. So before we go down the rabbit hole of NJASAP benefits and the importance of the enrollment period as it pertains to those, tell me more about the NetJets benefits. So, I'm on property, I enroll in them. They, I guess, retroactively start on day one on property. And then am I able to change them at any point if, my coverage need changes?
Yeah. So every year, typically middle to end of October, there's an annual open enrollment. At that point is when you can make changes to all your benefits for the next calendar year. You do not need to make changes if you're happy with what you have. If you like your healthcare selection, if you like your vision selection, you don't have to actively enroll and everything will just carry over from one year to the next. The only exception is the medical flex spending account that you need to actively enroll in because you have to make your dollar election for the next calendar year. Other than open enrollment, the only other time you can change your coverage per IRS rules, because all these benefits are governed by the IRS, is if you have a qualifying life change, and that includes the birth of a child, a marriage, a divorce, or a death, major events like that. And if you experience any of those events, then you can go in and you go into Jetstream, you go to the employee gateway, and then the benefits tab. And there you can click through to life event, and then you can either add or remove somebody. If you want to add somebody like the birth of a child or a marriage to a spouse, or if there's a divorce or legal separation, you can remove a spouse that way. So those are the only two times when you can make changes to your benefits. So either during open enrollment, that's for everybody, or during the year if you have a qualifying life event.
Okay, so let's get into the benefits that NJASAP has to offer. Tell me about those.
So NJASAP offers three benefits. The first one, and probably the one most people think of when they hear the Harvey Watt plan, right? That's the NJASAP loss of medical benefit. And that is offered through Harvey Watt. Harvey Watt is the pilot broker, for lack of a better term, right? And the insurance company for the loss of medical is Symetra. And what that is after 3 years, after you've been on medical leave for 3 years, that will start paying you a benefit so long as you cannot hold a first class medical certificate. And in general, for most people, that'll pay till age 65, depending on the age at when you go out on medical leave. If your medical leave begins after age 60, the benefit begins to reduce. In addition, there's a couple exclusions in the plan that have a limited benefit. Mental health is the biggest one. For example, anxiety and mental health conditions such as that. In that case, the plan will only pay a 6-month benefit. But for most people at most ages, it will pay out to age 65. And what that does is that allows you to collect a benefit after your paid benefit with NetJets has concluded. That will pay you a benefit, and you can choose however much benefit you want because there's a premium that goes along with that. And the premium is based on how much coverage that you purchase. Like any insurance, the more coverage you purchase, the more expensive it is. And what that will do is that will pay you a tax-free benefit during that time frame. There is a subset of that loss of medical plan that is called the NetJets Loss of Medical Core Plan. That covers every single NetJets pilot. That's new starting this past February. That's new starting this past February. And what that does is the union is paying for the benefit for everybody for years 4 through 6 of their medical leave, right? And that will pay a benefit of 60% of your base salary up to a maximum monthly benefit of $5,000 a month. However, that benefit is tax free, right? And that benefit will pay during that second 3 years of medical leave that we'll talk about in a little bit. And that will provide a benefit during that time. So the core benefit is for all pilots. The supplemental benefit is what you pay for via monthly premium that you have to elect. There's also NJASAP life insurance, also managed by Harvey Watt. That is a supplemental life insurance. It's similar to the company's offering. You can have the company supplemental life insurance, or you can have the NJASAP life insurance, or you can have both. or you can have neither. You can also pair that with life insurance outside the company and outside the union. So that pays a benefit depending on all life insurance. You select how much coverage that you want, and then you pay the monthly premium. And as long as you pay the monthly premium, the plan stays in force. And if you unfortunately die, this one's always awkward. If you, so you pay the monthly premium, and as long as the coverage is in force, if you should die, that will pay a benefit to your beneficiaries that you have specified on the plan. Typically, your surviving spouse or kids or whoever that you elect. Unlike term life insurance, the Harvey Watt life insurance through the union, the rates are age banded. So depending on your age, every 5 years the rates go up, and then I think once you get to your 50s, they start to go up in a more frequent interval. So it can get pretty expensive as you get older. It's not like term life insurance, right, where you can go to an insurance broker, buy term life insurance, and you set a 20-year term or a 30-year term, and that's the rate throughout. So the life insurance rates do change depending on your age. The difference between the union plan and the company life insurance plan is that the union plan, once you have coverage under the union plan, you can take it with you. Say you leave NetJets and you decide to go pursue different employment. If you want, you can take that life insurance with you. That's your policy. As long as you keep paying the premiums, it's yours. It's a lot more complex on the company plan to maintain coverage under that plan. Once you leave NetJets, you have to do a conversion, and that is can get expensive, especially if you leave for health reasons. The NJASAP also has a occupational disability insurance policy. Think of that. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the quacking duck, the Aflac type policy. Those policies pay you a set amount every month if you can't work. Right. This is the same thing. However, the NJASAP ODI insurance, right, that covers you during your loss of medical period. So from month 7 to month 36, right? So that's essentially designed to supplement your loss of medical. Loss of medical is capped at $6,500 a month, and you can purchase additional coverage under the NJASAP ODI insurance.
Great. So when I'm new on property, when am I able to enroll in these benefits?
So when you're brand new, you'll get an application package for both the NJASAP LOM policy and the NJASAP life policy. Both of those policies, you have 60 days from your date of employment in order to sign up for coverage. It's important to know that once you get past that 60-day window, the only way to apply for life insurance is to go through a health underwriting. Right. During that 60-day window is guaranteed issuance. Once you get past that 60-day window, you got to go through the normal process of having the insurance company underwrite the plan. So you may be denied. The loss of medical plan, same deal. Once you get past that 60-day window, right, you have to go through the health underwriting process in order to sign up for coverage. Now, there's a couple exceptions for the loss of medical plan. When you make your first upgrade from first officer to captain, you'll get a second 30-day window to upgrade. And in addition, typically every 3 to 4 years, we'll try and run an open enrollment under the loss of medical plan, like the one that just concluded a few months ago. And that will allow everybody to apply for coverage. However, unlike the company open enrollment, which is governed by the IRS, right, and runs annually, the NJASAP LOM open enrollment is not. So it is strictly dependent on an agreement with the insurance company and their willingness to run an open enrollment. So typically we're seeing once every 3 to 4 years. So we just had one. So I wouldn't expect to see another open enrollment probably until 2028, 2029. So it's important to sign up for coverage. It's as a new hire, I would also recommend that even if you just sign up for minimum coverage, once you have coverage, you can increase coverage whenever you want, right? You can cancel coverage whenever you want. You can decrease your coverage whenever you want, so long as you sign up for coverage. So even if you're unsure and you just want more time to think about it, because we see this a lot. New hires, it's just a fire hose of information when you're hired, right? And typically the insurance typically falls on the back burner, especially the supplemental stuff, because at that point in time, you're trying to learn a new airplane, you're trying to learn a new company, right? And all this other stuff just falls away. So the union does send out reminders to remind folks that, hey, you're coming up on your deadline. And if you want more time to think about it, recommend to folks just sign up for the minimum coverage, right? That way that buys yourself more time to think about it. Because once you have that minimum coverage, you can think about it as long as you want, right? If you want to take another couple months to think about, do I really want this? Because you can always cancel it. If you decide it's not for you, you can email Harvey Watt, say, hey, cancel my coverage, and they'll cancel it, and then you're done. If you want to, or if you want to increase coverage, you can then email Harvey Watt and say, hey, I've thought about this more. I'd like to increase my coverage, and you can do that. But if you pass that deadline and don't enroll, then you're stuck.
Awesome. So let's get in further into disability coverage. So let's kind of break it down by benefits you're automatically enrolled in and benefits you have to enroll in, which we've obviously covered some of that already, but let's really get into the nitty gritty. So let's start with short-term disability.
Okay, so short-term disability, that's more commonly referred to as SALCO, which stands for salary continuation. All the references in the contract to short-term disability are SALCO. So that covers months 1 through 6. So essentially, if you need to take leave for your own injury or illness that exceeds more than 7 or 8 days, depending on your schedule, if you are on the 7 and 7 or any of the CC schedules, if you need to take more than 7 days of sick leave, so 8 days or more, or if you're on the 8 and 6 and you need to take more than 8 days of sick leave, so 9 days of sick leave or more, essentially more than one full tour, essentially is what it comes down to. So if you need to take more than one full tour's worth of sick leave, the company requires you to go on Salco, whether that's for a serious medical condition or you just have a sinus infection that you can't seem to shake and it takes more than that minimum days or maximum days of leave. In that case, you have to apply for Salco. Salco pays 60% of your salary. It's taxed and there's no monthly benefit cap. So you're just going to receive a biweekly paycheck from NetJets like you normally do. However, it's just going to be coded as Salco instead of salary. It's 60% of your pay. Any deductions that normally come out of your paycheck will come out of the Salco paycheck. For example, any 401k contributions that you make, any supplemental life that you have, any other optional insurances that you purchase, all of that will come out of your paycheck just like it normally does.
Makes sense. Okay. So, and you mentioned Salco kind of covers 1 to 6 months. How exactly does that work? Is it in a rolling 12-month period? Like if I go out for a month on Salco and then come back to work for an extended period of time and then go out for an additional month, does that count for 2 months out of the 6 months?
If you are out on medical leave, once you return to work for more than 6 months per the contract, then everything resets. For example, if you're out on medical leave and then you come back and you're back at work for 8 months and then you go back out on leave, that's considered a new medical leave. If you're back at work for less than the reset period, is what happens is, say, using your example, you're out for 1 month. Say you were back at work for 4 months, and then you have to go out on medical leave again. In that case, it would just be a continuation of the previous leave. They call that a connecting leave. So they'll connect your new leave to your previous leave. And so you would have used up 1 month of your 6 months on Salco already. And so you'd essentially be continuing on month 2 of Salco if the leaves were connecting in the example that you gave.
Got it. All right. And then we briefly discussed loss of medical already, how it covers then months 7 through 36. Do you feel there's anything we need to add to that now, understanding its relationship with Salco?
Yeah, the primary difference between the Salco and the loss of medical is that they're both pay 60% of your salary. However, the main difference between Salco and loss of medical is the loss of medical has a $6,500 a month cap. So that's taxed $6,500 a month, which can be, if you've been at NetJets for more than a couple of years, that can be a significant reduction from the Salco pay. Just like with Salco, anything that's normally reduced, just like with Salco, anything that's normally deducted from your paycheck, whether that's 401k or any supplemental life insurance, that will be deducted from your loss of medical pay as well.
All right. And then we get into extended medical leave, which encompasses month 37 to 72.
Correct. So extended medical leave, that's optional. And there's a couple qualifying criteria that you need to meet, and that's listed in the contract. And essentially, to qualify for extended medical leave, you need to still be medically disqualified for your AME, and they have to be willing to attest to that. Or you have to have your paperwork in with the FAA waiting for a decision, or you have to have submitted your paperwork to the FAA and they have requested more testing. When you get within a couple months of the end of your 3 years, the company will send you a questionnaire in the email, and they should send that to your personal email address as well as your work email address, asking you to select one of those three options. And then they'll follow up with whatever information that they require in order to extend your medical leave out to 72 months, which is 6 years. So during the extended medical leave, there's no pay benefit from NetJets. There's also no health insurance coverage from NetJets. However, you will have the option to purchase Cobra, which is continuation of coverage. Essentially, you pay for your NetJets health insurance, NetJets vision insurance, NetJets dental insurance. Everything is a la carte. You can select which one you want to pay for, and then you'll just pay a monthly premium to cover those benefits. It's expensive, but it's probably better than you can find elsewhere.
All right. And then we get into the NetJets long-term disability, which covers month 37 to retirement. Talk to me about that.
So there's two types of disability. We talked about one before. We talked about the NJASAP loss of medical, which is our union's long-term disability plan. Then there's also the NetJets long-term disability plan. The payment duration is similar. It will take you out to age 65. Again, like the union plan, once you get into your 60s, it has a reducing benefit. The the NetJets long-term disability plan pays you 60% of your salary with a benefit cap of $6,500 a month. So it's similar to the LOM benefit. So the big difference between the NetJets long-term disability policy and the NJASAP LOM policy is the qualifying criteria. The qualifying criteria under the NJASAP policy is simply you can't hold a first-class medical certificate. So if you can't hold a first-class medical certificate, you qualify for payment under the NJASAP plan. The NetJets plan is a lot more stringent than that. There are many conditions which you can't hold a first class medical certificate. However, you can go out and work a normal office job. In that case, you will not qualify for a benefit under the NetJets long term disability. And I guess the only other thing I'd want to say about while you're on medical leave is I mentioned on several instances that all the normal deductions that come out of your paycheck will be deducted from your benefits. There's one exception, and when you're on medical leave, you're placed on inactive status with the union. So your union dues will not be charged to you while you're on medical leave. You'll still have access to the union and all the services. If you have benefits questions or questions for any other committees, you can still contact the committees and ask those questions. You're just on inactive status, so that means you can't vote if we have any referendums, and you can't post on the message boards. You can still read the message boards. You just can't post while you're on inactive status. If you would like to, for some reason, remain active, you can reach out to the folks at the union office and let them know, and they'll come up with a payment plan. Typically, that involves just writing them a check every month and mailing it in to pay your dues. But most people choose not to do that.
Yeah, good to know. All right, so we talked about the benefits that you were automatically enrolled in. Let's get into the benefits that you must enroll in and pay a premium for. Talk to me about NJASAP's loss of medical policy.
So you have the NJASAP loss of medical policy. That's the one we spoke about earlier, where you have 60 days to enroll when you're first hired. You can elect several different coverages. There's a 60% plan and a 67% plan. The 60% plan has a non-tax maximum monthly benefit of $8,000 a month, and the 67% plan has a non-tax maximum monthly benefit of $10,000 a month. You can always elect less if you want to pay a lower premium, and everything is based on off your declared salary. So you tell Harvey Watt how much you make, they run the formula, and then they come up with a benefit. Now, you can run the formula too if you go on the benefits committee page on the NJASAP website. You can pull up the FAQ sheet for the Harvey Watt loss of medical plan, and it shows you exactly how to calculate your premiums in there, and you can run the numbers for yourself. And if you want to figure out how much benefit you can get for a certain premium, right, you can kind of work the formula backwards and kind of come up with the numbers. Or you can just cheat and call Harvey Watt, and they can plug the numbers into the computer for you and give you the answer.
Perfect. All good tools. All right, cool. So we did, and then as we said before, two other benefits offered by NJASAP that you must enroll in yourself are the NJASAP ODI and the NJASAP Life. Is there anything that we didn't mention before that you'd like to talk about regarding those two benefits?
No, we talked about the core plan, right? Did I mention that earlier?
Yes, you did. Yep,
Yes,
yep.
I did. Okay.
And that's available to everyone, and you don't have to enroll, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's automatically for everybody.
So then beyond that, Jason, are there any frequently asked questions the benefits team gets that you'd like to kind of answer on here?
The most common question that we get is for folks that are, I have to take a medical leave. What do I do? Right? Because most people, fortunately, most people don't go on medical leave very frequently. So it can be a confusing process. It's also at a time, especially if you're just diagnosed with something, it can be a stressful time in your life. And we've developed a medical leave checklist, and that is also on the NJASAP website on the benefits committee page. We update it every year. Sometimes we update it multiple times a year. And it's a pretty comprehensive checklist. You can read through that, and it'll walk you through all the steps in the process, exactly who to call, when to call them. It's got phone numbers, and it can help you through that whole process there. In addition, it also has information about FMLA, which is if you need to take time off to care for a spouse or a child or a parent. And it also covers things like workers' comp. If you get injured at work and you need to take time off from that, that's considered workers' compensation. That's not Salco. So that's paid differently. And all that is covered in the medical leave checklist. And anybody can take a look at that. It's good reference material to have. Just download it and save it on your computer. That way, if you ever need it, you've got all the information right there.
All right, Jason. So you mentioned in the medical leave of absence checklist, FMLA. So I assume if I have to care for a sick family member, I shouldn't take sick time myself. Would that qualify under FMLA?
Right. So at NetJets is very strict on sick, and the contract as well, that sick time is only for your own personal injury or illness. So if you need to care for a family member, if you need to care for a parent, spouse, child, any reason like that, if you're required for their medical care, you can use FMLA. FMLA is a federal law. NetJets complies with that. And that allows you to take up to 12 weeks per rolling calendar year. So it's every, essentially it's a 12-month look back. It's not a 12-month calendar year. So you get 12 weeks per rolling calendar year to use for the care of your spouse, parent, child. And in that case, contact the phone number that's listed in the medical leave checklist, right? And they can set up the medical leave, or they can set up FMLA. And you will have to have medical documentation from your family member's doctor substantiating the leave. They're not just going to give you the leave without any documentation to back it up. But you fill out the paperwork, you submit the medical documentation, and then you'll have up to 12 weeks in a rolling 12-month period to use for the care of your family member. FMLA is unpaid. You can supplement FMLA, however, with your vacation and short-term bank days, and that will keep you paid for those days during which you choose to supplement.
Going down the rabbit hole of supplementing paid time, can I do that on medical leave as well?
You can. While you're on Salco and just Salco, you can supplement your Salco with vacation time, PTO time, short and long-term days. Recommend that if you don't cash out your long-term days every year and you have days in your long-term bank, the primary way to use those long-term days is to supplement with them while you're on Salco. Other than that, it's very difficult to get those out of that bank. They do not pay them out when you leave NetJets or when you retire. So if you do have any long-term days, it's recommended that you supplement with those. Any days that you supplement will be at full pay as opposed to 60% pay. And you can only supplement while on Salco. So that's during that first 6 months. Once you've been on medical leave for 6 months and you transition to loss of medical, you can no longer supplement. So if there's any supplementation that you want to do, you have to do it during that first 6 months.
Good to know. And now to get real confusing, jumping back into FMLA, you mentioned you get 12 weeks off in a rolling 12-month period under FMLA. How does 12 weeks get defined in our work schedule?
Yeah, so FMLA is calculated as 72 work days because there's a calculation in the FMLA that's for pilots, essentially. And that amounts to 12 weeks equals 72 days. So the contract says that those 72 days only apply towards work days. They don't apply towards days off. So depending on your schedule, however long it takes you to get to 72 work days is how many days off the schedule that you would be entitled to in that rolling 12-month period.
Makes sense. All right, Jason. So we work a job that's pretty physically demanding. What happens if I hurt myself at work?
If you're injured at work, that is considered workers' compensation. It's not considered Salco or medical leave. It's considered workers' compensation. The company has a workers' compensation department that manages those claims. It can get confusing because the workers' comp claim, it can be based in Ohio because that's where the company is based. It can be based in your home state, or it could be based off of the location where the injury occurred. The company's workers' compensation department can help you determine where the best place to file is, because there's no one size fits all for workers' comp, because all 50 states have their own workers' comp laws and they're all different. Some are better than others. While you're on workers' comp, you can supplement just like you can with the other types of medical leaves and FMLA. You can supplement with your short-term PTO days. You can supplement with your vacation days. When you're on workers' comp, if you go and comply 365 in your company iPad or iPhone and do a search for Sedgwick, Sedgwick, that will pull up your workers' compensation health insurance card. So if you're injured at work and you go to the doctor, don't use your regular insurance card. Don't use your company credit card. You'll want to pull up that document and you're going to present that as your health insurance card. Because if you're injured at work and you're on a workers' compensation claim, the workers' compensation insurance will pay for all your health care during that time. The first week that you're on workers' compensation, and that's the first 7 calendar days, not the first 7 work days, are covered at 100%. So if you suffer a minor injury at work and you need to go home for the last few days of a tour, and then you're able to return to work the next tour, right? You'll still be paid. That first 7 days is covered at 100%, and you won't see any reduction in pay. You won't see any reduction in your short-term bank, and then you can return to work. Once you get past that first 7 days, then you go on the larger workers' compensation claim, and that's through the state, and then the company can help you file that claim in whichever location best fits your situation.
Alrighty. So, Jason, thanks again for joining me today. And for everyone listening, we're not done yet. Join us for the next installment as we discuss your retirement and 401k plan with Retirement Committee Chair Captain David Ewells. Thanks again for joining us on today's edition of Labor Talks. If you want to learn more about today's episode or have questions, please contact podcast@njasap.com. Or, of course, if you have benefits committee questions, contact benefits@njasap.com. Thanks again, Jason.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on another episode of Labor Talks. If you haven't already done so, please follow NJASAP on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter @NJASAP. Show your support for the union with comments, likes, and shares. If you enjoyed this episode, encourage your fellow NJASAP members to tune in. And please share recommendations for future podcast episodes with us at podcast@njasap.com. Stay tuned for our next episode. And until then, this is Labor Talks, presented by NJASAP.